We are starting our next session. Today we'll talk about Room framework. So we'll still doing the database access. It will be lab 9. I'm creating the new project. This time I will use basic activity simply because I want the button. Right? We'll save some time. I don't have to add it manual myself. Other settings are the same. And because Room is a framework, it is optional. You have to modify Gradle files to start working with it. And those the instructions to do that you can find on this page, Android developerandroid.com, topic, libraries, architecture, adding dash components. Or if you go directly to developersandroid.com and you search for adding components to your project, you will find it pretty quickly. What this website provides you is a list of different components that you can add to your project. And today we'll use 2 of them. Lifecycle, actually one part of this, which is live data and view model. And the second part will be Room. Let's see if our project is created. It seems that it's not there yet. No, it is. Okay. So we can start changing things. We have to modify the build.gradle for module. So the second one on the list. And what we'll do, we'll add dependencies. We switch to the web. They said we need we need dependencies for Room and for lifecycle. For Room, lifecycle, I'm going to pre-Android X. I will copy the definition of the version. One thing. I'm adding it into the dependencies section. Another thing that I need is the implementation for model and live data. So it's the first line. And the second thing is annotation processor. I'm also adding it to the file. Then I have to scroll down a little bit the Room, or you can just click on the Room here. Again, pre-Android X, and you can copy the whole thing. Of course, without dependencies and braces, right? You need the content only. So this is the part that we've added. You have to save this file, and then you see this greenish bar on the top, sync now. You click on the button, on the link, and it starts downloading or adding libraries to your project. We have to wait a little bit. Everything is okay. everything is green, we can start working on our project. And I'm in the wrong application. Sorry, I didn't notice that this is still open. From project. At least that's quick. Okay, so now we have to add a few classes to our project. And we'll start with the model. Kind of the same steps that we did before, if you think about it. We have to define the class, and we'll be working with very simple class today. One table, one column called word. We will have a list of words. My class is called word, regular Java class. This class will have one field, private field string, word. It will have a constructor, and a getter, right? Public word string W word equals W. Regular class. Now we'll connect this definition with a database. We'll turn it into a model, or actually, how they call it, entity. And we'll use annotations. So at, and then the word, right? Make sure that you select it from the list, because with each annotation, there will be import associated with it. Otherwise, you will have to do it manually. Entity is associated with the table. Table name, we can specifically say what will be the table. Let's say word table. And since it's a database, we'll have a primary key, and we can have indices and other things. We have one column, so this column will be automatically a primary key. Now, if you have field like ID that is numerical, long or int, what you can do, you can also specify a parameter auto-generate and set it to true, and it will auto-increment your field. For string, it doesn't make sense, right? At non-null, and you have different annotations with the same name. Make sure that you select one from support annotation. And the last one, column info, allow us to specify what is the name of the column in the database, and in our case, it will be word. This is our model. The next step is adding an interface that will be used to access the data. This interface will be called Word DAO, Data Access Object. It's not a class, it's an interface. And you'll also have an annotation. Also have an annotation, DAO. This interface will specify all methods that we can use to access or to modify data. So all inserts, selects, updates will be specified here. Let's start with an insert. It will be a void function, insert word, and it will be annotated as insert. Simple, right? We also have a function that will allow us to clear the database. Delete all. Two parameters. The query. Here I will use this SQL query, right? So it will be delete from. You can see that it recognizes the table name, right? It helps me with the syntax. Another query that I will have will be to extract all the words, right? So it will return a list of words, get all words, no parameters, and again, it's a query. Select star from word table. You can have other things as well, right? So for example, you can say order by word. If you would like to use a parameter, so for example, I have another function, get word that is searching for a specific element, right? So let's say string word. I can also do that, right? I can say query, select star from word table, where word is equal to, or the parameter is introduced with the colon, right? And this is the name of the parameter to the function, right? I don't need this one. Also, when you're returning a data, when you're returning something from the query, sometimes you want to be notified when the data changes, right? Now, instead of returning a list from the query, we can return something a little bit more, something that will get us the notification, something that is observable, will notify us about the changes, and that is live data. So let's change this code, and let's make sure that the get all words return live data that is actually wrapping the list of words, right? But it will allow us to observe and wait for the changes. So that's our interface. You can see that it's fairly easy to extend, right? It's fairly easy to modify. You can define more queries. You can modify your API. The next thing, we're kind of starting from the bottom, right, and building up. The next class that we have to add is the representation of the database. Let's call it Word Database. This is a class. This class has to be abstract. And the parent for this class is room database. So it's abstract class that extends room database. course, we'll start with annotation, database. This annotation requires two parameters. First one, entities. It's a list of all entities, all tables that your database will have. They're represented by entity classes. In our case, there is only one, Word. And the second is version 1. Database needs access to the interface, to our data access object for each entity that is stored in the database. So we'll have a function that will return Word DAO. This function is abstract. You'll see why in a second. Public abstract function called Word DAO and returns the instance of an object, or returns an object that is implementing Word DAO, right? Let's put it this way. We'll also use a pattern that you might know, a singleton pattern, to get instance of the class, to actually instance of implementation of this class. This one is abstract, right? So we'll have a private field, private static Word database instance. And we'll have a static function that will create the instance. Static Word database get database. We need a context. And we'll implement the thing. So first, we have to check if our instance is equal to null. If it's equal to null, we have to instantiate. This class. At the end, we'll return instance. Right? If we have it, we can return it right away. If we don't, we need to do something. Now, the database, the idea with the room is that the database is shared across the application. There is one instance of the database. So you may have a situation when different processes want to instantiate it, right? That's why we have to synchronize this code. Let's make sure one more time that nobody else did the work for us. So instance is equal to null. And if it's still null, instance will be equal to room dot database builder. We're asking the builder class to do work for us. We pass the context, but not the activity context, but the application context. So the global one for our application. We are saying what is the class that we want to actually create. Word database dot class, and we have to say what is the name of the database on the disk. Word database. Okay, and we are calling function build to complete the work. You can see I don't really know how functions will be implemented here. I'm using an abstract class as a template. I get something that is not abstract, right? Because I can store an object. So it's definitely an instance of a class that is inheriting from the database, right? But those functions are added by the framework. Interesting construct. So we have the database. When we call this code, when we call get database, it will be instantiated, it will be created on the disk. Now let's add one more class. And this class will be called Word repository. This class will be kind of a connecting piece between the classes that we created so far. So first, it will have an instance of Word DAO. You'll also have a snapshot or a reference to the live data containing our words. In the constructor, you will receive an application, actually a context. That's how we use it. It will get the database instance, Word database db equal to Word database get database application. Right? We get the instance of the database. From the database, we get the DAO. And through the DAO, we get all words. You will be able to retrieve the all words from this class, and also will provide an insert function, public insert. What insert will do? The insert will be responsible for calling the insert function from the database, from the Word DAO. But it will do it in a fairly specific way. Because operations on the database can be potentially time-consuming, instead of running them in the main thread, we'll use the asynchronous task to do that. So what we'll do, we'll create a private path, static path, insert async task, extend async task. Asynchronous tasks have three parameters, three types, and the first type is the type of the parameter that you get as an input for processing. Second one tells you how you can update the type that will require to tell the application about the progress. And the last parameter is the return type. In our case, on entry, you will get Word, but we won't really notify about the progress, and we don't return anything. So the other two are void. Void spelled with capital V. This class will have an instance of Word DAO. We have to because we need this to access the database. The constructor will accept Word DAO as a parameter. And we'll store this information, DAO equals to our parameter. The most important function is do in background. This function, I'm sorry, this function is really your task. I'm changing the name of the parameter to params. That's what it is. What do we do here? We call insert from the DAO. Params. That's it. Now we have to create a piece that will be connecting the view and the data. And it's called view model. They're adding a new class, Word view model. This class extends Android view model. Here it is. It needs a reference to Word repository because it wants to be able to access the database. We'll keep the snapshot of the data, live data. Basically, it's a wrapper class, right? So what we'll do in our constructor, Word view model, we'll get application, so the context. We'll call a super. Word repository is equal to new Word repository. And all words is equal to Word repository get all words. We'll also generate getters and, well, one getter, so let's write it down. Get all words, right? That's our getter. And we'll have also insert wrapper public void insert Word we'll call insert from the repository. What we'll do right now, we'll build the UI for our application. And this time we'll use the recycler view. Been using list view a lot recently. Let's try to use recycler view. It's a little bit more flexible if you think about it. We'll start with creating the layout for an item that we want to display. So we'll create a new layout, XML layout file. I will call it rec item layout. The root tag will be linear layout. And I will work with the XML. One thing that I have to change is the height of this layout. It is set to match parent. That's not what I want because it's a single element, so I don't want to stretch it to the full height of the screen. Let's change this to wrap content. Element that I will need is a text view. Text view. Actually, you know what? Will be faster here. Let's take a text view and just drop it here. All right, we have one added. We can play with things like wrapping content. The layout width should be much parent. We want to use the full width of the screen. We can add specific style to this view and so on. Right now, let's leave it as it is. Okay. Now let's open content main. Right now, what is there is a text view. I don't need this text view. What I want to have here is a recycler view. Recycler view, the layout width will be match parent. The layout height will be also match parent. It should take the whole space, whole width and height of the screen. We should also say what is ID of this view. Recycler view, that's my ID. And we have to say equals list item. We have to say what is the template, the layout for the item. And the layout is coming from the layout that we just created. Okay, ready? I'm saving this. Closing this one. I'll close some of those files that we have open. Now, I don't know if you remember, but when you use a template for the basic activity, the pink button on the bottom has icon on it, and it's an envelope. I want to use this button as an add button. So envelope is not necessarily the symbol that I want to use. Let me show you how you can change that, how you can add other icons to your project. If you do right-click on your application, New, you will find option called Vector Asset. You click on it, and then click on the clip art. You have the whole library of different icons that are coming with Android. I want to use maybe this one, the circle with the plus. I select this one, I click OK. I can change the name. This is no way that I will remember this name. Right, so I will change it to F2018. I will change the color. By default, it is black. But if you click here, you can change your color, make it bluish. You can also change the size if you want it bigger, smaller, and so on. You click Next. It is telling you that this will be added to the drawable, and it will be called IC Add 24DP. All right? Finish. We can check. It's really there. What I want to do with this, I want to open activity main. I need to find the floating action button, and I have to change this value to drawable IC add. Let's try to run this application, see if all the changes happen. Right now, if we run it, nothing will be displayed because we didn't really connect the database with the view yet, right? We have view model defined, but we didn't really load data to the recycler view. Complaining about something. Should be Word. Complaining about my naming convention. I called the parameter W. It should use the same name as the name of the field. Let's try again. That seems better. Now, our next step will be adding adapter. Adapter with a class that is called view holder, wrapper class for the view. We'll do it as soon as this build finishes. Installing. Here it is. This is my icon. You can see that I could make it bigger, right? But that's the application that we have. Okay. So let's add our adapter. Word list adapter. It extends recycler view not view holder, but adapter. Adapter, and it is parameterized with the class view holder. We will create this class, view adapter dot bird view holder. This class is something that I will create now. Right, I will have a class view holder that extends recycler view holder. This class is a wrapper, right? So we have a storage for the field, and the field will be text view. Word item view, and the constructor word view holder is taking the view calling a super method and is storing it, right? So word view item is equal to item view dot find view by ID r dot ID dot text view. The adapter class is responsible for instantiating the view. It will use the inflator. It will have a private final layout inflator, and we'll have also a snapshot of our words. In this case, a simple list. Words. Word list adapter will get a context, and it will instantiate the inflator. Layout inflator from context. Then we'll have two functions, on create view holder and on bind view holder. On create view holder takes the group that is really apparent and takes the position of the item in the list. Doing the following. It's checking if we have words. If words is not null, we have something to do, right? We can get one of them, words dot get word from the position. And then we can get the I messed up something. Document typing. Sorry, I started writing wrong function. No if statement. What we have to do, we have to get the item view. Our inflator will inflate the view based on our layout. We'll place it, attach it to the parent, and we are saying that this is not the root, right? And then we'll return new word view holder for this item view. Okay, so this happens when we want to create a new item. Now, when the item is when the bind function is called, what we do, we get the holder and the position. And now we will check if we have words. Words, not null. We can do some work. We can get the current word. Words.get from the position. And we can get the holder, and we can set the text from the current word, right? Get word. Else, we'll still use the holder. We'll simply say that there is no data. And we'll have one more function, void set words. It's simply overriding the snapshot, and it's notifying the view that there was a change. Right? So this is our update function. And there are two more steps before we can really display something. First, we have to add something to the database. And second, we have to connect this adapter with our view. right? And we'll use the view model to do that. So let's do the what is it complaining? Oh, we are missing one function, item count. My bad, I forgot about this function. Item count returns how many items we have, right? So this is quite simple. If we have if we have words, right? If it's not null, then return words dot size. Else we return 0. And now we can jump back to the main activity. Make the connection between adapter and model and the actual view. Okay, so I'm going to main activity. I will add the word view model here. Word view model. This model will be instantiated in onCreate. Word view model equals. We are not instantiating it directly, but we are asking view model providers of this activity to get one for us. Word view model dot. Now what we'll do, we'll add observer. So this, there will be a trigger that will refresh the view. So our word view model will get all words and will observe the content. The context, and the new observer. We have function on change. What happens in this function? The adapter will set words, but we didn't get the instance of the adapter. Just give me a second. What do we forgot? I didn't instantiate the adapter. So before we get the word view, we have to set the adapter, right? So we have the recycler view, and this is simply from the view, right? So ID dot recycler view. Here it is. Then we need our word list adapter. And this is equal to new word list adapter. And this is our context. We'll set, since we are here, recycler view set adapter to our adapter, and we also have to set the layout manager, and we'll set it to new linear layout manager. Why linear layout? Because we are using linear layout in our items. Right now we are having adapter, we can use it here. You can say adapter dot set word. What does it mean here? It means that our live data is telling us there is a new version. There was a change in a database, right? So it's triggering the observer, and it's passing us the new version, new snapshot that should be displayed. Still, right now, our database is empty. Right, so let's add something to the database. What we'll do, we'll use a mechanism called callback, and we'll add this to the database. So when we open the application, we'll clear the database and we'll add keywords. Okay, so I'm going back to our database. I will start with adding the asynchronous task that will really trigger the change. So private static class populate async task, extend async task. There are no parameters in this case, so all three are void. I will need a DAO. This DAO is equal to DAO. And doing background, let's add two words. All right, so we'll say DAO dot insert new word. So I have my task. Now this task will be used in something that is called callback, another class that will instantiate room database dot callback. New you want to do something on open. What exactly? We want to trigger the task, populate dot execute. This callback will be triggered when we create database. So before build, we'll add callback. Right, so this is one change, and then these two things were added. If we run our application right now, if we are lucky, and I didn't make any mistakes, we should see these two words displayed. If we are not lucky, there was an error. Let's see. Complaining about version. Let's see if it helps. I think there is something left from my previous groups. Let's try right now. Okay, it's here. Hello, world. We have new elements added. One thing that I forgot to mention is that when you have the word DAO and you have insert function, what you can also specify here is on conflict strategy. When you're inserting and you detect that you have the same primary key in your database, you can make a decision what to do. And you have those basic options: replace, abort, fail, ignore, or roll back, right? Roll back is for transactions. Ignore, simply silently leaving it as it is. Fail generates an error. Abort is breaking the execution, and replace is making the new version to be stored in the database, and that's what we can select for our inserts, right? Again, with our data structure, very complex. it doesn't really matter. Because if the primary key is equal, right, it means that it's the same word. Okay, so as you can see, we can display our two words that we've added. Let's implement action for this button, for the plus button. To do this, we'll create a new activity, and I will use empty activity this time. I will call it add word activity. What I will have in this activity, you can guess. I will have edit text. Text. And I will have a button. Let me guess, we forgot to fix the base. Yeah. Here they are. Right, so our text will be long, and our button will be below the text, also will be long. Right, the width will be much constrained. The button label will be safe. Okay, let's go to our activity. Add word activity. This activity will be called as a hold for results, right? So it will return some information using extras. So I will define a label that will be used for that. Extra reply. Add word reply. What we'll do here, our action will be fairly simple, right? We'll find the button. Button B, find view by ID, R, ID, button. And for this button, we'll set on-click listener. We'll set the intent. We'll find the text view. Actually, we should do it before we get into this. All right, so text, edit text, T, find view by ID r ID edit text. Let's make it final so we can access it here. And what we'll do, we'll set results, and this will be set for result OK. We'll get from the text edit, so from T, we'll get text to string. Sorry, wrong. Too fast. We have to use the intent, right? Put extra, use the tag that we created, right? Extra reply. Yes. And then we can use the intent, right? We can say hi here. And finish to close the application. Not the application, but the activity. Right, so this activity is basically reading from the input. When you click save, you're sending back the word. And in the main activity, what we have to do, we have to add function on activity results, right? What we have to define here, we need to define constants that will be used to start the new activity, right? So let's do it. Public final static int new word equals 1. We'll use this to start new activity. So in our floating button here, in onCreate, where by default the generated code is to create a snack bar and to show the text, what we'll do here instead, we'll create a new intent. New intent. Main activity, this add word activity class, and we'll start activity for result, right, with this new intent and the constant that we created here, right? New word. And when we did that, we can implement on activity result. And in on activity result, what we'll do, we'll check if this is our call, right? If request code is equal to new word, and if this thing that is coming, sorry, has the result code equal result OK, because it means that there is a new word. If so, we'll get the word view model and we insert our new word there. And the new word is coming from data.getStringExtra for add word activity extra reply. right? And we have to create a new word here with this value, right? With this. This?
Yep.
So here is my my data. Okay. What did I forget? Something is not working. Let's debug. Let's modify this so we can see actually what is added. Name. Okay. So remember when we were implementing Word repository, we created the async task, but I never instantiated it, never executed it. So let's go to Word repository, find insert function. And we have to execute this task. Insert task. Word, insert task, workout, Word. Without that, insert is never really triggered here. Add new. And here it is. And we can add more words. And they're nicely sorted. Lots of elements, that's for sure. Many levels of wrappers. That's another thing. Different way of working with the database, right? You have more abstract way here. You're not touching directly the database, right? How you want to use it in your projects, in your assignments, it's your choice, right? You can either work directly with SQLite, as we did last week, or you can use this framework, right? I'm leaving this this choice to you. Whatever feels more comfortable, you can work with. I will stop the recording right now. So